walking school bus or a bike bus. It's a organized biker walk to school on a designated route with meeting times. It's usually led by parents or teachers or community members, and it's a great way to help support students and families, who might not otherwise feel safe or be able to walk or bike to school. It creates this sort of safety in numbers and creates a really joyful and fun experience. And it's a great way to help scaffold children's independence, which is really important for their development.
BMX Breakthrough is bridging the gap from old school to new school, from tracks to manufacturers, from new riders to their local tracks, and it doesn't stop at racing, but the mission is to connect people with bikes. Join me, Jay Oaks, as I interview key people in the sport and in the industry that are involved in their local circles, in their communities, at their local tracks, and aiming to make a difference on a local level. You'll hear stories, marketing tips, failures, successes, and a way to make a difference in your local BMX community. Let's dive in as we kick off this next episode. All right. Well, this is probably one of our most unique episodes that we've done on our show so far. And Sam, I saw you on Instagram and you run a program called Bike Bus. And so, before we dive too far into it, will you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what it is that you are doing?
Yeah, so I'm Sam Balto. The kids call me Coach Balto. I've been a physical education teacher for over 10 years in Washington, D.C., Boston, and Portland, Oregon. And for the last 8 years, I've been doing active transportation to school programs like walking school buses and more recently, bike buses. And we started a bike bus at our school almost 3 years ago, and it's been a huge success. We do it every Wednesday. We've had some rides, a third of the students participate, and it's been a really great way to build joy and community and physical activity. And it's really created this global movement to get more children and families being active before school.
That is super cool. So the first time that I heard about it was a couple of months ago because I saw a reel on Instagram and I had no idea. I was not familiar at all with this white walking bus or riding bus concept. So will you dive in a little bit further in detail to what that looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So, walking school bus or a bike bus, it's a organized biker walk to school on a designated route with meeting times. It's usually led by parents or teachers or community members, and it's a great way to help support students and families, who might not otherwise feel safe or be able to walk or bike to school. It creates this sort of safety in numbers and creates a really joyful and fun experience. And it's a great way to help scaffold children's independence, which is really important for their development.
I love that, which is one of the reasons that I am such a huge advocate of the sport of BMX and just bikes in general. And one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you, because when I reached out to you, your response was, "Oh, I don't ride BMX," and and ultimately, I just love what you're doing. You're getting kids and people on bikes that I'm guessing probably wouldn't have ridden otherwise. So you said a third? Is it a third of the
So,
school?
yeah, we've had some rides that have a third of the school participating. I do, we don't have a ton of kids who ride BMX on the bike bus, but they're way more likely now that they feel more confident riding. And it's cool that like more kids are now joining cyclocross teams, which is pretty much the same thing, I'm assuming. And, just anyway, as a physical education teacher, any opportunities for 60 minutes of physical activity is a win. So, the CDC says you need 60 minutes, but they don't say how you get it. And so you can get 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, however long a BMX race takes, like boom, there's your, extra minutes towards 60. So it's all a win.
That's really cool. Well, yeah, and I would assume that you have kids. So the kids that are like, I would assume like a regular school bus, you're having kids that are uh, jumping on at the beginning and probably getting dropped off at the end. So what are some of the longer distances that these kids are riding to school?
Yeah, so my specific bike bus is a mile and a half. We have two routes that leave at the same time, and then we meet about a mile from school, and then we ride the last mile of school together. There's some bike buses. I did a bike bus in Montclair, New Jersey, and it was 4.5 miles long. And we had preschool kids, like younger siblings riding the whole route together. And so it's really fun. Some kids go to the meeting spots, some kids and families just wait along the route. And, as long as you're there before this time, you'll see us, you pass, we'll pass, you find a gap, and then you join. And so that's always fun when you see these like groups of kids and parents on the side. We're sort of blasting the music, we come through, and then the kids join behind us.
That's fun. How often do you have, or is it like an open invite if parents want to jump in and ride with the kids?
Yeah, so I lead two bike buses. I lead the one to the school that I teach at, and I lead one to my son's school. I find that the school that I teach at, we've been doing it longer. I have a better relationship with the students and the families because I'm a teacher there. And so we have a lot more students who ride without their parents, but you still do have, parents who like to join and ride, especially after the pandemic. Parents were craving community just as much as kids were. So parents were joining just to hang out with other parents. Um, but it is a really great tool to help scaffold children's independence. And so I try to sort of say to parents, like, no, take this opportunity. Like your kid knows how to ride. Just ride into the start, and they're good the rest of the way. And then what we find is more kids are riding on non-bike bus days, which is completely the goal.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
I recently saw a video that you guys had posted about like crosswalks. And I don't know if you guys have had an impact on different bicycle crossings that are going in, but it seemed like it based on the post.
Yeah, so what's really great about the bike bus, it's sort of, it's a chicken or the egg where a lot of times municipalities have these mode shift goals, or they want to, create safer environments for more people to ride bikes because generally if, you don't feel safe doing something, you're not going to really want to go and do it. And so what the bike bus does, it creates this safety in numbers. And so before the physical infrastructure is created, you're showing the municipality this latent demand of children and families that want to ride bikes to school. And so what we see is the municipalities, the cities are much more likely, and it's much easier for them to improve the bike infrastructure along those routes because we're really showing them that like there are these people who want to ride in the street and ride for transportation. And it's this very symbiotic relationship.
I love that. That's really cool. Yeah, because I mean, sometimes it just takes that extra motivation for a city to see the impact that it would actually have,
Mhm.
which seems like
Uh,
exactly what Bike Bus has done.
Totally. And it's this thing, I'll pay attention to transportation stuff at the state level, and you'll have this person who's like really high up in the Oregon Transportation Department, and they're like, oh, into some state meeting, they'll be like, oh, we can't do anything to address mode shift, trying to get people to pick other ways of getting around besides just cars. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm just a PE teacher, and with a $500 mini grant, I got from 1% of students riding bikes to school to a third. And here you are, state person who's got billions of dollars at your discretion, like saying you can't do anything. And it's like, come on, like you just haven't really tried. And I think the thing that's so great about this is what I'm promoting and what we're promoting with the bike bus, like this is in our genetic code. This is how we've survived for, millennia by being physically active and socially connected. And so it really is just natural for us to not, sit in cars by ourselves isolated, but to be together in community and to be physically active and to move our bodies.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking to that dynamic and then pair that with our love for BMX and what I've said in quite a few different episodes is that at the end of the day, if I don't necessarily have a preference, I think BMX racing is really cool, but it's a way that a lot of kids get into riding bikes. And
Yeah.
long term, what I want is for my kids to love riding their bikes. So in 20, 30 years, I want them to look back and love riding their bike and remember the times that they had with their dad and their mom riding bikes. And in the same way, what you're doing is it doesn't have to be BMX related. Like these kids can be on
Totally.
mountain bikes, road bikes, racing cyclocross. Some of them will end up having cross country mountain bike teams. And all of it's great because ultimately it's all keeping kids away from the time on a screen that they may
Totally.
otherwise be bored and sitting inside.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always preach that in PE class where it's like, you don't have to love this, specific game that we're learning, but the goal is to expose yourself to a lot of different games so that when you do get older, you do find the activities that you really embrace and want to do to stay physically active and connected. And so, BMX, bike bus, playing hockey, basketball, whatever it is, like you got to move your body. And so, I think for me as a PE teacher and as a teacher, it's like you see how being physically active before school is so impactful, and how it sets, and it's beyond well researched that kids do better academically, they get in trouble less, they have better social relationships, they're able to focus and have better memory, when they're physically active. So it's like we should do everything we can to set kids up for success. Like if you're in a school that has the land, let's build like a BMX track park and like set kids up with some time before school to practice riding. Like that's a win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, back in my kids were in preschool and kindergarten and then kindergarten and first grade. And I remember like my son was super wiggly and having a hard time sitting still. And so
Mm,
before school, we would have the kids before we left, we'd have the kids go out and make and run 2 laps around the house. And
totally.
and it just helped in so many ways. And it was something so simple. It didn't take
Mm,
that much time. As siblings, they would race and they thought it was a blast. But the
totally.
reality was that it got their teachers to be even happier and it gave them an easier job to teach our kids because they
Totally.
had gotten their wiggles out.
Absolutely. And I think, good for you as a parent for recognizing that and creating that opportunity. And I think, the more we can do that and be intentional or just build it into our, transportation, that physical activity, it's a win for everybody. And it just sets the students up because like kids want to be successful. Kids don't want like kids genuinely, I believe, do not want to sit on the couch playing video games. They want to be connected with their friends and they want to be outdoors. But in a lot of communities in America, we haven't really designed those spaces where kids live that are conducive for independence and free play and to create an environment that, parents feel comfortable to just let their kids roam like they used to. And so sometimes you need that little extra support, a caring adult to, organize playing street hockey in the street or organizing a bike bus or a walking school bus because we kind of have to help scaffold our way back to how things used to be.
Yeah. Well, and I would assume that there are quite a few students that you just have the ability, if you haven't already, it's probably coming, but the students that you're making a profound impact on their lives just because there are always students that don't have a meaningful mentor in their life, somebody that genuinely cares about them. They don't have necessarily the guidance that they need to. And so having you as this person that cares enough to say, come right along with me
Yeah.
is probably huge.
For sure. And I appreciate you saying that. And I think it's, every kid can succeed. They just need to sort of be given the right environment. And I think the thing I love about the bike bus is that the bar of entry and success is really low. And what you ride safe, you ride in a straight line, you make predictable movements, you don't ride ahead of Coach Balto and the boombox. But like by just the act of showing up, you are creating a safer environment for everybody else. And so like I see kids who might really struggle in their sports teams or at recess, but like they're thriving on the bike bus because the bar of engagement is really low, but that basic success, oozes out into the rest of the school day.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it's starting the day off with that physical movement and
Mhm.
yeah, using your body and exercising and just being and being outside, breathing fresh air. At this point, I want to take a moment to shout out and appreciate our 2025 sponsors that are helping us to move the mission of BMX Breakthrough forward, which is to grow the sport of BMX at a local level. You can learn more about these through the links in our description. You can also use the code at checkout to not only get a discount, but it also helps them and helps us to see and track how much business it is that we are sending them, which is helpful on all fronts and helps us to continue gaining support as we move forward with what we're doing. So at our gold level, we have box components, we have Mongoose, and we have Pro Lids. At the silver level, we have Dance Comp, LRC, and Pro Start BMX gates. At our bronze level, we have Command Aviation, Sound Cedar Lumber, Lincoln Park BMX, Justin Shepard Title Examiner, Danger Snacks, and Fly Racing. Once again, you can find their links in the description. You can use their code at checkout if we've got it, and we are so thankful for their support and your support. The video that I saw initially that connected me with Bike Bus, like I said, I had never seen, I was not familiar with the concept at all. And the video that I saw was you guys trying to get Justin Timberlake to come out and ride. And
Yeah.
then recently, Justin Timberlake joined you guys and
Yeah.
rode. So will you talk a little bit about that? Because that was just super cool to see.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing and pretty wild and really awesome for him for taking up our call and invitation to ride in our bike bus. Last summer, I had a neighbor, she's like the mayor of the dog park, and she came up to me and she's like, Sam, check out Instagram. Like Justin Timberlake just did a bike bus with his dancers. He didn't call it a bike bus, but like his dancers were going to rehearsal and they rode bikes and they turned it into a video. So I was like, oh, like I know they know how to ride bikes. This is pretty cool. They look like they're having fun. And so she's like, you should invite him when he comes to Portland. And so I checked the schedule. He wasn't coming. And then a couple of months later, my wife was like, oh, Justin Timberlake just, announced he's coming to Portland. I want to get tickets. And I was like, oh, let me try something. So the next day, for our bike bus ride, I played one of his songs, and then I spoke to the camera and I said, "Come join our bike bus," and edited, wrote a couple things on the video, and across Instagram and TikTok, over two videos, it got like 14 million views, and I mean, he was tagged thousands of times. And so I felt pretty confident I was going to hear something. It had been like a week or two, and there was like no action. I was like, this is crazy. Like it's been viewed and, he's been tagged so much. And then finally I got a message from his manager, basically like, we've seen it, we want to do this, but we got to keep it on the down low. And so it's been a couple months. I'm not great at keeping surprises, but closer to the date, we reconnected and we talked the logistics, and we weren't able to do it in the morning just because of his schedule and it being so early, but we did it on the Sunday before their concert. And the kids and the families, and I think Justin Timberlake and his team like really had an amazing time. And it just like goes to show that joy that is created with bikes and good music and just coming together. And so I feel really fortunate that he took us up on it. He definitely did not have to. Um, and hopefully, it sparks more bike buses. I mean, you learned about it from that video. I just had a meeting with a PE teacher from East Hartford, Connecticut, who's starting a bike bus because she saw that video. And I think that like really goes to show the power of movements and just the good power of social media, that like nobody owns these ideas. You just share them and then you sort of take what you want, leave what you don't, and make it your own. And it's been cool to see so many people, seeing the joy on kids' faces and seeing communities come together and inspired and starting their own bike buses. And it's not going to look like mine. It's going to look like yours, and yours is going to be great.
That's cool. Well, and you never know what the impact is that is being made in a moment like that, and we won't know for years to come. But the whether it's just being a part of a bike bus for a student, or whether it's that moment when Justin Timberlake showed up and was a part of it, and for somebody to go, oh, like that was the moment where I felt like I was seen, like I wasn't invisible anymore.
Totally.
Right, like this guy went out of his way. He's wealthy, he's famous, he had no reason to come to my neighborhood, but he
Totally.
did.
Yeah.
And That's really cool.
Yeah, it was funny that night. My son, who's 6, we're putting our sons to bed, and he goes, "Mom, is Justin Timberlake the most famous person you've ever met?" And she was like, "By far." He was like, like the morning before he came, we were like watching his Super Bowl halftime commercial, like performance, and I'm like, I can. Oh, geez, like he's coming. Like he's performed twice at the Super Bowl. Like this is big. But they had a great time, and I think that's the thing. Like definitely the adults were excited. The kids were, I think the kids might have been more excited just to have a ride on the weekend and just to ride bikes with their friends. And so, like, there's some footage where, we show up and we meet, and like the kids are just like, all right, we're at the front with Coach Balto. And they're like, I don't know who this guy is, but like, here's where the music is. That's where the fun is. And they just like zoom ahead. And so I think that just kind of goes to show like, kids just want to be outside and be with their friends, moving their bodies and doing fun things. And we just got to, continue to prioritize them and create those opportunities for them.
Well, and in some ways, I almost wonder if the dynamic of Justin showing up at that event, similar to a Super Bowl halftime show, is it's not aimed at the artist for the halftime show isn't aimed at the high schooler. It's aimed at our age, our generation,
Yeah.
maybe up to the 50-year-olds, right? The people that would really resonate with
Yeah.
that music, that genre, that pop influence. And so in some ways him coming to the event would be that was how I saw, or I saw the invite for him. So you just said a woman saw that video as well, and she got inspired by it. So maybe it's less about the kids because to some extent they won't necessarily know. They might know it from trolls or something.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but it really might be something where somebody sees it that has the ability to start one or the ability to speak life into somebody who wants to start a bike
Totally.
bus, and it might start that spiral from there.
For sure. And I think that like ripple effect sort of thing is like, it's sort of funny you say that because there is a part of me that like does that intentionally. I am pretty strategic in my like social media and just playing off of pop culture and playing songs that might be relevant and stuff like that. But like it really is this thing like if you're a new parent or thinking to be a parent or starting to settle down, it's like I would strongly suggest, and this is my subtle way of doing it, is like moves if you have the privilege to like decide where you live, like live somewhere that has the choice to be able to do a bike bus because like if that is like that's like the baseline bar because like you can build up from there, but like if it's the infrastructure and the city community design just like and where the school is, if it's on like a highway, it's just like you're going to be kind of stuck in these school car lines, which I don't know if you've ever seen these videos and stuff like that. Like talk about something you want to avoid like the plague, and it's like this horrible thing that parents don't ask for, the school didn't ask for, and it's just these like systemic choices, policy choices that like all came together to create this horrible thing where parents are waiting in their cars to drop off their kids for like 45 minutes to an hour in the morning and the afternoon, and like go on school car line TikTok, and you just want to smash your head into the wall and just be like, you don't want that. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
any of those parents realize that. And, they're making the best out of it. But, like, if you have the choice, try to move somewhere where that has an environment that you can walk or bike to school. Doesn't have to be perfect, but, you can work on getting it there.
Well, and talking about the physical exercise part of things, the physical movement, the being outside, breathing fresh air is the dynamic of starting your day with exercise and then ending your day with exercise. And the alternative to that is starting your day with a 15, 30, 60-minute car line. That's not going to help anybody have a better attitude. Ending the day with that, I've never had a better attitude because I sat in that line.
Totally. Like you just kids, parents, everybody just need that time to like get the energy out and like I mean, I've heard so many times that the easiest morning to get their kids out of school, like out of the house to go to school are bike bus mornings. I mean, I've heard that so many times and I think that's like you give the kids this thing to look forward to that they get to see their friends like my son who's in first grade like him and his buddy Brooks, I call them chatty guys, and they're just hanging out in the back of the bike bus and they just chat it up. And you're just like, I'm so glad, you guys are getting that out now and not when your teacher's trying to teach you, reading, writing, or math. Because, like, God, you guys are just, rambling on and on. But, like, that's the perfect time to do it. The bike bus is when you're supposed to do it, not, when the teacher's trying to teach. And without the bike bus, Brooks is going alone in a car, Love's going alone in a car, and they don't get any time to like socialize. And so you really want to create these environments that set our students up for success. And I think that's kind of the message is like, there's a lot of things we can do to help, set our kids up to have a successful school day.
Yeah. And speak to core memories is having those I remember as a sixth grade kid riding all over town after school with my friend, and we had so many memories and so many conversations. And so at 6 years old, to be able to look back and have that form time of conversation, and I mean that's a key point in your life when you're learning how to communicate, you're learning how to tell stories, and
Totally.
that's
Absolutely. And
very neat.
it's like, those examples you get, like, there was probably no parents involved in those core memories. And I think, that's where we're seeing, a lot of research is showing like a lot of the rates of depression and anxiety are so high for children in America right now is because they really don't have these opportunities for independence. And these, like, you feel more confidence when you have more independence and you're able to do things on your own and you become more resilient. And, you don't need a parent to be able to get you from point A to point B. And so you're like, I'm a human being and I can go to my friend's house or to the park or to my first job on my own. And like we've lost that, no, there's never like a shame parents. I really believe this is like higher up systemic issues that have kind of all layered on top of each other. But like we can do things to help scaffold and get kids back to where how it used to be, and also help parents like alleviate those sort of like concerns, real or perceived, to like give their kids more independence. Because God, like, us as parents need it, and our children desperately need it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So a question for you, because all this revolves around bikes, and you had said that you don't ride BMX, and I knew that going into it. But what is your story with bikes? How did you ride as a kid, or did you get into it later, or what?
Um, yeah, I used to ride bikes as a kid, just to get around. I feel like I feel weird. This is the first time I probably said this publicly. Um, I feel like one of my strongest memories with bike is like I had a bike and I wanted a new one, but instead of telling my parents I needed a new one, I like threw the bike off our deck a couple times with my friend. I think he like, convinced me. And then like a couple weeks later, my parents were like, "What happened to the bike?" And I was like, "Oh, it broke. I need a new one." Stupid stuff you do as a kid. But yeah, just getting around. But I think for me, my relationship with bikes is just very like functional. I sort of see myself as like having every mode of transportation at my discretion. Like I own a car, we have a bus, I can walk, I can bike, I can, afford Ubers, tabs. And I just constantly, when it goes into like my mental calculations of how to get around, bikes just seem to be, most of the time the best tool to get me from point A to point B. It's the cheapest, it's good for my health. I feel better. I think when I go to like pick up my kids from daycare, like, and I do like a self scan of how I feel, picking up my kids, it's like I am just a calmer, more present parent when I ride my bike. And I think that's like kind of how I want to approach it. And I want to set myself up, to be less anxious around my kids. Like even when I pick up my son from like preschool, there's no cars in the parking lot. I'm still like, come on, we gotta go. Somebody's waiting. And it's like, Sam, there's nobody waiting, but like there's just this like urgency that you get when you're driving. It's I don't know how to describe it, but like, and I just feel like a calmer, happier, better father when I ride my bike. And that's basically my relationship with biking. I mean, I own a lot of bikes now. I love my cargo bike. It is, such a savior for, being a parent of young children. But, it's just, I think that that's how I like to get around. And it's how I, want to show up for my children as a calmer, less anxious, more present father.
Which is a solid reason. I think that's
Yeah,
fantastic. I think the dynamic of using bike for transportation and there's so many different aspects to riding a bike, which again is something that I love. And I grew up racing for a number of years, and then I got away from that. I started riding at skate parks, and then I started riding mountain bikes, and got into road bikes, and then I raced cyclocross a little bit, I've spent time on just about every type of bike. And I remember
yeah,
when the Kona Ute came out, and I really wanted a cargo bike, and I never ended up getting one, but even riding around the beach on beach cruisers, and
so
there's
nice.
there's just something freeing about being on a bike and just going out, and I think, like you said, is the maybe anxiety, for lack of a better term, that happens when you are driving around. And it's so easy to fill up our lives. You live in Portland, and
Yeah,
I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we have a lot less people, but in a city you can start to become like just anxious. Everything can start getting
yeah,
busier and busier and busier.
totally.
And when you are riding your bike and commuting with your bike, you have to slow down a little bit, because
Yeah.
you can't get in too much of a hurry, because if you get a flat tire, you will be late.
Yeah, for sure. But as like also sometimes it's like way faster. Like I'll take my kids to like the local hockey team, and you still have to pay for parking, but it's like I just zoom up and there's a bike rack, covered bike rack right next to the stadium. I save $20, and like we don't have to walk from the garage to the stadium, and so it's like sometimes it's like even more efficient. And
Yeah.
so there like are those cases like yes, it slows you down, but like I don't have to wait in the school car lines. I, can just roll right up, put my son right in, and then we take off. So, yeah, no, I always say like you're never sad when you're riding a bike, and I can't think of a time I've ever been like in a bad mood riding. And I think that's the thing that I love about the bike bus, and probably one of the reasons why I stay positive is because like you just see the kids that show up every week, and it's never guaranteed. So I'm always appreciative of anyone that shows up. And once you start moving together and listening to some good music, like you're in a great mood.
Yeah. That's really cool. So do you play music on the boombox every time you guys ride?
Oh, music is necessary. I had a speaker that I bought, like a Costco one for like $100. And then this other company sent me a speaker, and they were solid. It was like two speakers, but they didn't connect super well. And then this company, Soundbox, they're like a European company, saw my videos on social media, and they're like, "We gotta send you a speaker." And I was like, "Sure, here's my address." And then my like secretary is like, "Oh, you have a delivery, Sam." And it was like this humongous, like massive speaker, and then like a smaller one, but like they are so loud. And so I have one, the smaller one goes on the back of my bike, and then we have a high school kid who volunteers, and the huge speaker has a backpack that goes with it. And so he stays like 50 feet behind me. Yeah, we get the music. It's sort of funny. The speaker company, the speaker goes to 11, but they're European, so they'd never seen Spinal Tap, and they didn't like get it at all. They just genuinely thought that it would be cool for the speaker to go to 11. And so we're like always at 11 when we play, when we're riding, and we just go full blast.
That is awesome. Man,
Yeah.
I think that's just a fantastic thing to say, is like Bike Bus turns it up to 11.
There you
That
go. Boom.
that's
Yeah.
it. Man, that's super cool. Total side note, they're
Yeah.
apparently they're making another Spinal Tap, so I'm just excited about that.
Awesome. That'll be great.
But man, that's cool. I love hearing what you've done. I mean, just the level of excitement seeing the video. So anybody that's listening to this, you've got to go over. What are you guys on Instagram?
So I'm Coach Balto,
Okay.
Coach Balto, and then also check out Bike Bus World. So at Bike Bus World, and so that's a national nonprofit I'm starting to support bike buses. around the country and around the world. And so all the bike buses will add Bike Bus World as a collaborator, so you can see all of their videos on that account. And so it's super cool. There's bike buses in Barcelona, in Germany, in Australia, New Zealand. There's like one that popped up in Mumbai, India. I got tagged in one in Indonesia yesterday. And so this year I'm going to do a little bit more traveling and Womb Bikes. They're like a children's bike company. And so they're sponsoring me to go to 5 bike buses around the country. So I'll be in Miami this month. I'll be in Texas. I don't know. I know Dallas is kind of close to Oklahoma. So
It is.
I'm going to be in Denton, Texas in March. I don't know if that's too far, but would love for you to come and join. And then where else am I going? California, New York, DC, Chicago. So all around, there's bike buses everywhere. And it's this thing, it's like you don't have to have people are very resilient and we're problem solvers. So it's like there's ways that you can make it work for your own, and so you sort of see it in terrains or communities that you might not otherwise expect, but there are some rural communities where it can be done. And there's, really good suburban communities that can do it. So,
Yeah,
it,
that's
yeah,
cool. Well, yeah, I think just the level of excitement, the level of hype in these videos, and like you said, it's hard to smile while you're riding a bike. I mean, I love the smiles of the kids that are riding, and when my kids and I are racing, when we're mountain biking, when we're at the skate park, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just fun to ride bikes and to see the smiles. And when I watch your videos, you see these kids going by, and there's there's 100+ kids that are riding past, and all of a sudden you're just seeing smile after smile after smile. And it's hard not to be stoked in that environment. And especially when you're cranking music and having a good time.
for sure. My At the end of last school year, I'd been doing the bike bus at my son's school for almost a year, and we're riding to the start of the bike bus, and my son looks at me and he goes, "Dad, who's the boss of the bike bus?" He's a kindergartner. And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Who told you to start the bike bus at my school?" And I was like, "Nobody did. I just thought it would be something cool for you and your friends and, the parents. And so I just organized the bike bus." And he goes, "Cool. I love the bike bus." And yeah, I think it just goes to show there's no boss of the bike bus. Like you can just do that. You don't need permission to create opportunities for physical activity and joy and community. And it might not be a bike bus. It might be some other way that you do that by organizing a BMX team or whatever it may be. But I think it's this reminder that we need to do more to prioritize children, create opportunities for physical activity because we're all going to be happier when our kids are thriving.
Yeah. And it makes so much better of an environment for kids when, like you said, you show up better as a parent. I know that I show up better when I prioritize time for myself and time for physical fitness, and you prioritize time to be outside. And so that time of refreshment and breathing clean air and all that, like showing up for your kids, is that's going to make an impact on their lives too.
For sure. Absolutely.
So if somebody wants to reach out to you, like I would assume through the bike bus world, are they able to
Yeah.
reach out to you to ask questions and
Yes.
stuff like that?
Yeah. So there's resources on the website. You can also email at hello@bikebus.world and or on social media you can reach out. And yeah, we're here to help support you start bike buses in your community. There's a whole network around the country and around the world, so we'd love to get you connected with them.
That's super cool. Is there a spot on the website that talks about the dates that you're going to different cities?
Not
No?
really,
Okay.
no. But maybe that's an interesting. You see, this is where it gets a little tricky. As much I want to do, probably at some cities I try to put on an event, like a talking, like at a local pub or some chatting space, and that's been really fun to be able to put that out. So I think I'm going to try to do that for each of the places I go to, but we're not there yet.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
people can jump on social media and hear you talk about it. I mean, the one I'll have to look at the dates. What are the dates that you're down in Denton?
I want to say it's like the 27th. It's that Wednesday. It's like the 26th, maybe.
Okay, so the middle of the week
So
in March,
yeah, it's
end of
going to be
March.
a little Texas tour. It's Denton, then Austin, and then I'm working on a surprise bike bus where there's like a PE teacher that started a bike bus at their school, and I'm working with the PTA to surprise that PE teacher and sort of like, I want to call it like pump up the bike bus, and like they're gonna get a new bike, a new speaker, bike bus jackets, some helmets and gear for the kids. And, I don't know. I feel like it could be a fun new like series where you just get to travel and like hype up these awesome bike buses and people that are, starting them in their communities.
That's sweet. Oh, I mean, I could see that totally being a thing and for people getting on board with that because, I mean, to be able to celebrate those local heroes,
Totally.
I
Yeah,
mean, is really they're it goes back to the not all heroes wear capes. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. They're
totally.
creating a place to belong. That's why people who have never watched sports, when their home team starts winning, that's why they
Yeah,
jump on the bandwagon is people want to be a part of something. And
totally.
so those people, and I mean, they're like you said, there are kids that how many of these kids that are riding in bike bus would otherwise be sitting at home. They would get ready, they'd be frantically getting ready, and then they'd go out to the bus stop, and then they'd be sitting on their phone and they'd be playing a game until the bus came, and then they get on the bus and they'd be playing a game until they got to school, and then yeah,
Yeah,
but instead they're outside and they're
yeah.
stoked to go to school.
Totally. I mean, we've done rides. It's like we had one that was like 28 degrees. I mean, we had like well over 30 plus students participating. I mean, we've had cyclone bomb rainstorms, like these crazy, and like kids still show up. And it really goes to show like kids want to be outside with their friends.
Yeah, and some of those tough situations make for the best stories.
Totally. And that's how you like build your resiliency.
Yeah.
That's how we like overcome those other more challenging things. It starts by, building it up when you're younger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Sam, thank you so much. I mean, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to have a conversation with me, but also just what you're doing for kids and for people in general. It's just so cool.
Hey, I really appreciate that. Yeah. I gotta find if there's one in Oklahoma and then make it out. And I gotta do some BMX riding.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's fun. I always tell people like especially people that started out on like mountain bikes with full suspension and stuff, is I say if you want to find out how not good of a rider you are, ride a BMX bike because it like you feel every bump in the ground. You like jump off of a curb and you realize how uneven you're landing, and
Yeah,
it's like it shows you where you need to get better and improve, and it's a very different experience than riding a big wheel bike, that's for sure.
for sure.
But
Yeah,
even some of the new BMX bikes, the big wheel BMX bikes that are out there are pretty sweet. So,
that's awesome.
but
Well, thank
man,
you.
I appreciate your time. Like this was fun talking and knowing full well that it wasn't BMX focused, but ultimately what you're doing is getting kids on bikes, which I absolutely love.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all you do as well. And thanks for having me. And thank you to your audience. And yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Right on. Cool. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you soon. I'll see if it might be possible to connect with you down in the Dallas area.
That'd be awesome.
Right on. Cool. Thank you,
All right.
Sam.
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you for joining us in today's episode. It is because of people like you and our sponsors who make this whole thing possible because they have a desire to see the sport grow. If you would like to get involved in the mission of BMX Breakthrough, you can start by going to your local track, find a way to volunteer, help out, and serve there. Or you can go to our website, bmxbreakthrough.com, in order to donate, find out about sponsorship, or learn more.